The trend of the last couple decades has been that computers are becoming more important parts of our lives overall. To that end, I think it's important to take a step back and consider our relationship to them as individuals. And when doing so, I believe it is easy to see that computers have become more top-down, and as a result, users have become less involved in their computers. In order to get my point across, I would like to begin by analyzing an essential part of John Locke's philosophy. It'll be relevant to exploring computers. Human beings are created equal. We are of the same species, have the same faculties, and occupy the same Earth. It only really follows that nobody has any more claim to the Earth than anyone else. From the fish in the oceans, and to the oil in the crust, all humans are entitled to the Earth equally. However, the Earth is not really convenient. In order to eat the fish, one must catch them, and in order to retrieve the oil from the crust, one must unearth the oil from the crust. And the moment one does, it becomes theirs. The formula for private property then can be summarized as the following equation. The Earth plus one's labor equals private property. If you're unconvinced, remember that all things are owned in common, but one's labor is from oneself. It comes from themselves. And therefore, mixing one's labor into the Earth gives the common the property of the uncommon, and it becomes theirs. This formula is not only logical and natural, it's also practical. Echoing Genesis chapter 1 verse 28, Locke supposes that God gave the world to men in common, but it cannot be supposed he meant it should always remain common and uncultivated. He gave it to the use of the industrious and the rational. The industrious and the rational can, with a single acre of cultivated soil, provide more value than that of 100 acres of uncultivated soil, thus increasing the common stock of mankind overall. Everyone benefits. One must understand that the things under the wings of their freedom and liberty makes them better people. If you've ever lived in a house before, then you will know precisely how often things break. And when you fix those things, do not express discipline. Do not become more skillful. More to the point, every man is held accountable to his labor. We cannot let things in our possession waste or tarnish. And since we are held accountable to our labor, we will further grow the common good of mankind and improve as individuals. You show virtue by maintaining things. One of the big philosophical assumptions of John Locke is that man is good in the state of nature. And so when we imbue something with our individuality, that object attains value. Locke says the effective labor yields 9/10 the value of an object. So, as an example, this watch is not valuable because it has sapphire crystal face or 21 gems inside of it. It is instead valuable because people molded those things into a watch. Maybe think of it another way. A canvas is not useful, but a painting is. And the difference between the two is that a person has imbued an object with beauty and art, which is just another way of saying you've imbued your individuality with an object of the earth. So a house becomes a home, a paper into truth. These are the effects of your labor. I mean, I can say it a million different ways, but I'll yield myself to the next statement as my final one. It is individual labor that weaves sound into music, clay into bricks, bricks into streets, neighborhoods into communities, land into cities, cities into a polis, and maybe, just maybe, a bunch of zeros and ones into something useful.
Hey Linus and Luke, are there any specific tech innovations or developments on the horizon that you believe will significantly impact the average consumer in the near future?
Man, it's not so much the things that are on the horizon right now as the things that we've allowed to creep up on us. I think that previous topic we just talked about, where we don't own our devices and companies that sold them to us can just...
The device manufacturer or installer and Microsoft reserve all rights not expressly granted in this agreement, and no other rights are licensed to you. For the avoidance of doubt, the license does not give you any right to, and you may not, work around any technical restrictions or limitations in the software, or reverse engineer, decompile, or disassemble the software or attempt to do so. By accepting this agreement and using the software, you agree that Microsoft may collect, use, and disclose the information as described in the Microsoft privacy statement. Microsoft collects data from you. Through our interactions with you and through our products, you provide some of this data directly, and we get some of it by collecting about your interactions, use, and experience with our products. Microsoft uses the data we collect to provide you with rich, interactive experiences. We manually review short snippets of voice data that we have taken steps to identify to improve our speech recognition technologies. This manual review may be conducted by Microsoft employees or vendors who are working on Microsoft's behalf. You only own the media on which the software product is recorded. SCL and/or its licensor shall at all times retain ownership of the software product as recorded on the media, and all subsequent copies regardless of form. The software is licensed, not sold to you, and you hereby acknowledge that no title or ownership in the software is being transferred or assigned, and this agreement should not be construed as a sale of any rights in the software. Licensors retain all right, title, and interest to the software, including but not limited to all copyrights, trademarks, trade secrets, trade names, proprietary rights, patents, titles, computer codes, audiovisual effects, themes, characters, character names, stories, dialogue, setting, artwork, sound effects, musical works, and moral rights. No right to ownership. You acknowledge and agree that you shall have no ownership or other property interests in the product, and you further acknowledge and agree that all such rights are and shall forever be owned by and inured to the benefit of Sega. No person shall circumvent a technological measure that effectively controls access to a work protected under this title. If it wasn't already clear to you, you don't really own anything on your computer. Even the hardware, which composes the very basic of what it takes to run your computer, has essential software completely privated. All of these restrictions on ownership add up. By the end, you're left with the shell of a personal computer, a service, and you have no freedom to express authority over services. This creates an environment where user autonomy is made difficult, and at worst is completely shut down. As a result, we are left with inferior and mediocre machines. It's not a personal computer, it's Microsoft's computer. It's not your phone, it's Apple's phone. It's not your console, it's Sony's. And you can be expected to be treated as less than a child while using their services.
Why can't he get into the machine?
You need special tools.
What kind of special tools? Just take a screwdriver.
You didn't want users to be able to open it. You need special tools.
Is this for real?
Well, it's more complicated than this. The current expectation is that the only real choice you have on your computer is what you install on it. We seek to express independence, but this is not independence. Independence is not just the choices you make, what you install on your computer. It's instead, what do you maintain? What do you practice? What skills do you have? How do you express individuality over your computer? How do you imbue your computer with your individuality? The legal concept of licenses, IPs, and services has been skewed and leveraged to exploit the user and restrict their rights. I will admit that there are cases where restricting user freedom is somewhat justifiable. And so while I would like to blame everything on the top-down nature of these things, it's just not realistic. It is on the user to make better use of their system. It's not all out of your control. I mean, there are other options out there. I don't believe you need to take all of them. God knows I certainly don't. I mean, you don't need to look at this as just like going off the grid. You know, that's not what I'm encouraging. I just want people to make the most of their computers. And from this position, I think it is agreeable to say it is a moral good to take the steps to become masters of your own life instead of just consumers. Learn. Try free and open source applications instead of privately owned one. Try out a bit of coding. It doesn't really matter. All that matters is this. Above all else, make it your own. Computers are the very apex of human labor in the smallest possible space. Quite literally, over 200 years of collaboration on a single project. You are blessed to live in an era where you can enjoy their fruits. I mean, take a step back and appreciate the insanity of how many billions of things have to happen on your computer in order to even watch this video. Take another step back. Appreciate and be humbled by this interactable moving image, which is connected to billions of more interactable moving images. That's insane. There's never been anything like this before in the history of the human race. So like a canvas that waits to be painted, imbue your computer with yourself and show some independence. We have the world at our fingertips. Let's just make sure it doesn't slip through.